So we're gonna be working with an 18-inch grapevine base today. And I like to just take some of the stray branches and I just like to trim them. Not everyone does. It's really personal preference. I do recommend though, if you have leaves or pine needles in it, I would remove that because we're gonna be gluing. I'm gonna be using my glue pot. If we try and glue into something that's already decomposing, it's really not gonna have anything to hold on to. So once your wreath is prepped the way you want, you're gonna assess which side you're gonna cover. We're making a crescent wreath, so when you think about a crescent moon, you know, it's gonna be a little more than half of this. So I'm gonna just take like a little bit of a step back. So I'm gonna cover up this side, and really this is a nice wreath in general, but I feel like over here it's a little bit sparse. I like how this is shaped here. So I'm going to take a piece of grapevine wire, and I'm going to take one thick branch of our grapevine base. You don't want to do it through a bunch of small ones because there's a chance that those could, you know, give way and then your hook breaks. So you're going to just put the wire through, and then you're just going to take the ends and you're just going to twist them. Okay, we're just making a very simple little loop. So if you are somebody who is selling, it's a nice way to let your customers know where it could potentially hang, or if you're designing this for yourself and you just want a nice little reminder. So then I'm going to take a piece of ribbon and I'm going to just tie it in a knot. And this is just to mark it. I like to mark it so that when I'm designing, I always know where my North Star is. Okay. So we are going to start with Ficus. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to break these down into 4 pieces. Okay, so I'm going to take them and I'm going to bend them. Okay, and these 2 pieces on the sides, these are the perfect length. This one in the middle for what we're doing, it's a little bit too long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up 2 branches and then snip this little guy. I may end up using them, I may not. I call them a little nubbin. Sometimes it's good to just have a little bit of that extra foliage just to cover up your base. All right, so I'm going to repeat. I'm going to be using 3 pieces of variegated ficus. And so this type of ficus is more blue-based. When it comes to greenery, we have 2 different families. We have yellow-based greenery, and then we have blue-based. So blue-based greenery would also include things like lamb's ear, eucalyptus. And you can mix the 2. You know, there's no rules that can't be broken when we're designing. If you see something that's more in the yellow family, but it pairs well or it ties in nicely with this, say it has some seeds or something like that, then go with your instinct on it. Otherwise, if you're not feeling super sure about it, again, you can just stay with the same family and you really can't go wrong. All right, so I'm going to be dipping everything into my glue pot. So I'm going to start in the top corner. And this is pretty much how all of my designs start, one way or the other. So when I do something, I'm going to repeat it, and I repeat it so that everything stays balanced and mirrored. So if you see me do something once, I'm probably going to do it twice. All right, and now I'm going to take my second piece and feed it up through the grapevine. So when I'm working on the top half of the grapevine, I always feed things down. And when I'm working on the lower half, I feed it upward. And I just think it's more likely to kind of get in the grip of the grapevine base. So in addition to the glue, we have our wreath itself kind of holding that together. So for this piece, I am going to give it a bend. All right, these materials, they're made to be manipulated. So don't worry that you're going to break something or, you know, something can't be fixed. And if you have foliage that's in the way, just pull it off. Again, you want this to work for your design. So if you have to pull things off or bend or any of those things, then go for it. Actually, I'm going to pull this off. All right, so right now we have our 2 in the corner. We have 2 in the middle. Now we're going to have 1, up top going side to side. Okay, so you can kind of see where the ending spot is. This is kind of like laying our foundation. So these parameters, they're a suggestion. If you build beyond it, obviously that's fine. I just like to have a little bit of framework when I'm starting my design. So most of the time I do start with some ficus. And then we're gonna just take 2 more pieces and they're gonna go on the side. Okay. 1 and 2. All right, now we're gonna do a design that I consider a pattern. So what I like to do first is use the larger blooms that we have. So these are beautiful pink peonies. Okay, I love the foliage on these, so I am going to push it up. If there's something that you don't like the foliage or you just would prefer it not be on it, you can pull it off or you can clip it. Again, make the materials work the way you want them to work. Okay, so we are gonna start in the middle, right here. Okay, and I'm taking one of the larger blooms. So whenever you're working with a bush of flowers, you wanna just be aware of if they have variations. So for this bush, let me see, out of these 7 pieces, one of them is petite. So we just want to make sure that we're aware of that. Okay, so starting with our larger bloom, I'm going to go right here in the middle, and I'm going to have this facing inward. And then I'm going to take my second bloom and I'm gonna have this one facing outward. Okay, next up I'm gonna go up top, so we're gonna go to the top corner. Okay, and I'm giving about 3 to 4 inches of the stem being off of the grapevine base. If you're designing for yourself or for someone that's going to be putting it in between like a screen door or a storm door, everything needs to be flat against the base. In a newer home, you may have 5 to 6 inches, and in an older home, you may have as little as 3 inches. So you don't want to have just a smushed up wreath. All right, so now we have top corner, bottom corner. And now we're gonna head back up top. And this one is going to be facing a little bit downward. When we look at how things grow in nature, everything isn't, uniform. And so when we're designing to get that natural look, I like to either have the heads tilted or you can even bend the heads. So if you're gonna bend the head of a floral, just do it a little bit below. You don't want to do it, on the part that it's actually like securing. You want to go a little bit further down and then bend from there. If you should pop the head off a flower, you can definitely just take a little glue and put it back on. If you want to avoid the extra step, I would just, go again like an inch down. Okay, so right now we have our peonies laid out. We do have one more. I'm just going to put it to the side for now. So next up, we're going to go with these wildflower bushes. And I love these. There's so much on them and there's so much texture. So these are from TCT Crafts. And so what we're going to do is we're going to just spread these out. And I'm just going to pull these apart. You can also snip them. Actually, I'm going to snip this piece. And while typically I do like to just do all the florals first and then go in with filler, for this design, I want to make sure that this material is evenly distributed. So I'm going to go a little bit out of sequence for me. All right, so we're gonna be using 2 of these bushes. And these have, let me see, they have like some heather on them, some berries, these little tiny blooms, a little bit of fern. This is a great quality item. I always think of designs that have a lot of texture. They just look more expensive, and I think to a seller it also conveys that they're more expensive. And so instead of having to buy all of these different items, you kind of have it all in one bush. So I'm gonna fluff these up, okay? And these are wound, or like bound is the right word, not wound, bound by paper. So you do wanna be a little bit delicate with it. If it should fall off like this piece did, it's not a big deal. We'll just put it in separately. Okay, so spreading them out a little bit and fluffing. And again, you want to know some pieces are lighter than others. So the pieces with fern have less blooms. They don't have berries on them. So as I'm doing this, I'm just going to make 2 separate piles. Let's see. There's so much movement here. This is definitely one of my favorite items right now. All right, it's just spreading it out. And again, a few of these pieces, they broke off and are separated, but we're gonna just plug them in where we see fit. Or you could even just pull the whole thing apart if you wanted to. I like how they're grouped, so I'm gonna leave it together. So using the same piece, because I want things to be mirrored, I'm gonna go above these peonies. And plug this in, okay? And now I'm gonna just spread that out nice and airy. So I'm gonna repeat that. I'm gonna go for a piece with the fern on it. And I'm gonna go below now. So again, we're still mirroring here. Slide that upward and spread it out. You want to be able to see all of the different pieces. And with this, it's fun because you can have things, you know, really kind of jumping off of your grapevine base. Okay, now I'm going to take my next piece. I'm going to go right next door up here. Let's go in. Okay, and again, I'm spreading out all of my pieces. And we're going to repeat. And again, just spreading them out. You get a lot for these 2 little bushes. All right, and now we're going to take our next piece. And we're going to start back up top. I always like to have something cascading downward. So for this, we're going to give it a nice bend as well. And have those flowers just trailing off. And then when we're working on the bottom, I'm going to give it a little bend so they're going to climb up our grapevine base. Okay, so let's see. I do have a few spare pieces, so let me put those to the side for now. And we're gonna go in with our cosmos. I love these cosmos. I keep looking at pictures of the other wreath I made with these, and it almost looks like AI. They're just so stunning. They're striking. So for these, I'm gonna push the foliage down because I'm really just looking to get the blooms. And I don't think we're necessarily going to be using this entire bush. I'm gonna go ahead and clip everything and then just strip the leaves down. And the leaves are blue based, so again, it's something you can keep on if you like. I'm just clipping because I don't really want anything competing with all of those wildflowers that we just put on. All right, so you can just take the leaves and just slide them off, or you can take, I was gonna say nail clippers. You can take wire cutters, maybe nail clippers. You're gonna take your wire cutters too, and you could also snip them off. Yes, Melissa from TCT Crafts said next year they're getting these in like every color possible. They are beautiful. And you really don't see a lot of cosmos out there by any wholesalers either. It's just strange because they're so pretty. So again, when we're working with the bush, we want to see that we have different types of pieces. So we have pieces that have a little bud attached to it. And then we have pieces that do not. Okay, so 2 separate piles right now. The have-nots and the haves. Okay, and I'm going to start in the top corner again. This is where we're flexing our muscle memory, is when we keep doing things in the same pattern. You can start to move through things without overthinking or overanalyzing, and you have a sense of that the outcome is going to be something that you're happy with. So in the top corner, I'm going to put my first piece in. And I'm going to have these tilting a little bit outward. What I did notice in photos is that if there's too many of them looking straight out, it almost looks like eyes or something. So I want to make sure that these are pointed in different directions. Because again, they just draw your eye right to them. And we want these as more accents. We want our peonies to be the star of the show. All right, so we have top corner, bottom corner. And now we're going to go to the edge. So we can just kind of have this trailing down. One. And then we're going to repeat down below. And the glue hairs are so real right now. When your glue pot is not hot enough, you get way too many glue hairs. Then if it's too hot, then your glue is dripping a little bit too quickly. So gotta find the sweet spot. All right, now I'm gonna go in with the blooms that don't have any buds. So I'm gonna put these aside. And I'm giving this a little bit of a bend. I don't want it to come straight out. So starting here, more towards the middle up top, I'm gonna put one bloom in, and it's gonna be facing upward. And then we're gonna repeat that down below. Slide this upward. And the head is again just pointed more downward. Okay, we're gonna go in with our next bloom. And I'm gonna have it go right here, a little bit to the side of our top corner. Okay, and I am gonna have this one face out. So it's not that I wanna hide the face of these, it's just I don't want it to overwhelm because it is such a sharp looking item. It can definitely take over. All right, we're gonna repeat that and go right here. Okay. And then let's take 2 more. One going more side to side. I'm going to repeat that here. this going side to side. So they're a little bit staggered. We don't want things to be too like matchy-matchy. We want it to look natural, like how we'd see something in a garden. All right, so this is filling out very, very nicely, very quickly. Next, we're gonna go with our ranunculus. Ranunculus is just having a year. It's having a few good years. So I'm gonna take the foliage for this and I'm going to just slide it up because I like the foliage. All right, and I'm just gonna be using 3. So yes, if you got a kit, we're just using 3. We just want a little pop of purple to play off of the wildflowers. So keeping in mind the size, okay, 2 of these are larger and then 1 is smaller. I take my first one and right in the center, put that in, and then I'm going to repeat down below. See, now my glue pot is smoking. It's a very fickle, she's a very fickle lady. All right. All right. Again, giving the head a little bit of bend. Oh, see, okay. I'll show you what happens when you break a flower. Okay, so I popped the head off. I should have been pulling more at the stem and I pulled too close to the top. So I'm just gonna dip this in the hot glue and I'm just gonna slide it right back in. Another thing that you could do is if you had, let's see, the bush that it came on, you could go back and take any of these wire stems and cut them and then put the flower head on that as well. So yeah, if I have long stems like that, I usually keep them because there's a good chance that I'm gonna need it for something, whether it's like a cabbage rose or a piece of hydrangea. And a lot of these materials are on the same type of wire, same size. All right, she's like new. And then we're gonna take our last one and I'm just gonna put it a bit over here, off to the side. Okay, now we have, there's a lot of materials here. So if you got a kit or you got them from TCT Crafts, then you're going to be very happy, I think, with the level of, you know, just supplies in general that come with this kit. All right, so next we're going to be using these little berries. They're not exactly botanically correct, okay, and they are plastic, but they do a great job of just adding that little pop of color and just, you know, spreading it throughout your design. So we have it in pink, and then we have it in yellow. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut these all off. These are pushers. Whenever I say pushers, I think about Mean Girls. But it just means that we're able to actually move the pieces up so you can make it as concentrated or as airy as you like. Some items that aren't pushers, so like our baby's breath, you know, we're just going to have it on the stem as it is. We don't have the ability to, you know, adjust or make changes to that. All right. Before I do that, I just want to go in with some of these pieces that got separated because I can see we have a bare spot on our grapevine. It's always good to stand back. When we're so close to our design, it's very hard to catch where things are off. And then I'm going to put this just above. This is just kind of framing that out. Okay, back to what we were working on, which are these little pink and yellow berries. So I'm going to start in the top corner again. And then I'm going to repeat down below. So we're going to go bottom corner. Then we're going to go back up top. We're going to go to the middle. And I have these kind of jetting out. It gives it that airy feel, that really natural feel of how things would grow in nature. I'm going to repeat that below. And then we're going to put one on the top and the bottom, cascading off. So designing is something that is meant to be enjoyed, not stressful. A lot of us talk about how designing, it feels therapeutic, and there's a reason for that. It feels great to be working with your hands. It's even better to be unplugged in general and just be able to focus on something that you're enjoying doing. But if you find that you are feeling stressed or things just aren't working and you're getting frustrated, there's a couple things that you can do. One is, I'm a fan of walking away. I know some people recommend just, you know, getting it done, or pulling things apart. But for me, sometimes if I just take a little break, go get some fresh air, grab a glass of iced tea, like whatever, coming back down with fresh eyes, sometimes I can do a better job of problem solving. And it actually is going to save me time because I'm not going to continually be pulling things apart and putting them back together. All right, so we're going to just repeat that same pattern. So top corner here with our yellow. And the other thing is, you know, we all design differently. And that's something that I think is just really fun about. How did that already get there? I must have grabbed it by accident. Okay, so I put one here, apparently. Don't know when. All right, so now we're going to go into the middle. Go a little up top. Yes, so we all design differently, and we all have our own methods. So you could see how somebody does something and say, okay, you know, I like the design, but like I'm not comfortable doing it that way. That's okay. You know, you want your design to be something that you like and that you enjoy. So there's a lot of different styles and teaching styles and all of those things. And you always just want to find the one that speaks to you. You know, certain instructors I find to be very engaging. You know, it keeps my attention. And, you know, that's not across the board. You have to find the type of teacher that you enjoy. Like, to me, I need somebody that's got a bit of a sense of humor. I can't be too rigid. In my heart, that's just not what designing is. So I don't want it to be super technical. I want to actually just enjoy the flow. All right, now we're gonna go in with, this is our woodland fern. This is one of my go-to greeneries. Okay, so this is an example of, this is yellow based. So even though a lot of this is blue based, you can see there's still a bit of a bridge that they can work together. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna slide these up. And you don't wanna slide them up so fast or so like hard that you pop off the top. I always find that greenery is a little bit harder to reassemble versus a floral. So I'm just kind of gently doing it. You know, us wreath makers are very strong. So guys, cool your jets when you're doing this and take it easy on our greenery. All right, guess where we're gonna start? Yes, top corner. Okay, so starting at the top corner, and then we're gonna go below to the bottom corner. And we're going to jump over to the middle again. So I like for these to separate my flowers. I want to make sure that when somebody is looking at a design that they can really see all the different pieces that go into it. If you think about artwork, certain things grab your attention. I was at the MFA in Boston a couple weeks ago, and there was just this painting that, it was so beautiful. It was kind of like haunting looking, and it looked very maroon around. It was a painting of this woman, and it was like a maroon background. But when you walked up to it, it actually was black. It was very interesting. So I kept like walking up to it and walking away. And I'm sure people thought I was a weirdo, but that's like an example of something that it got me thinking and trying to like look at it from different perspectives. And our wreaths are a work of art. So we want to also have that level of depth. It's not like looking at a store-bought wreath where you're just like, okay, yes, this is, you know, this is mass produced. You want it to be something that's very unique. And now I'm gonna go above the centerpiece and then below. And then we have one leftover piece. So I'm just gonna look and see. We have a bit of a bare spot right here. So I'm gonna use this to fill that. All right, we are like cruising through this. This is 31 minutes, not too bad. Okay, so for our baby's breath, I am gonna separate these, okay? So these are from TCT Crafts. They come in bundles of 6. They are definitely a great value for the quality. So I recommend these. And depending on what group you're watching this in, there are different affiliate codes that you can use. So for my group, it's Cara15. If you're in Melissa's group from TCT Crafts, I'm sure there's something different. So check in the description what the promo code is. Okay. Starting top corner. And then we're going to repeat. And I like the little touches of white because it plays off all of the other colors and kind of makes those other colors shine even brighter. Now we're going to go in the middle. Pretty much every step, I believe, has been corner, corner, middle, end. And we're just doing that throughout. And it just makes designing enjoyable. So whatever works for you, you know, try and repeat the same thing. It's just like if I exercised, you know, the more I would do it, the more it would be easier for me. My poor Peloton. It's just sitting there. All right. I want to make sure that I'm covering up our grapevine base. Using it to separate some of our florals. And then just kind of taking a step back to see. Okay, let's go to our centerpiece right here. Let's do one on the outside, more towards the top. And then we're going to go underneath. So if you're doing something with a bow, this is the same steps that I would do. I always like to frame things out. This is our focal point for our wreath. Okay, and then we have one more. Let's see. I'll put it right here. And if you have an uneven amount of flowers, typically what I like to do is put more up top. It's just where someone's gonna look more, so I'd rather have that impact there than on the bottom. Or you can just leave it off and use it for a different project if you feel like it makes it unbalanced. All right, so I still have the smaller peony and I am gonna go for it. So I am gonna put this right here towards the end. right, and then we have 2 Cosmos left. And so let's see. Let's use them all. Okay. So I am going to put one facing outward, above our center part. So this way we're enjoying the petals and not getting like so mesmerized with the center. And then I'm going to just repeat. Okay, now depending on how much of the stem you put through or not, usually I have some of the stems that are going straight through to the back of the grapevine. Okay, so for me, what I'm gonna do, you can see all of these pieces. These are all things that would scratch the paint on somebody's door. So what I wanna do is I'm gonna snip them off. And because this is the part that had the most glue on it, I'm gonna go back with my glue gun and just add a little bit more. I feel like you can't over glue. If you want something that's gonna last years and years for someone, then going overboard with the mechanics is never gonna hurt you.